Okay, we are to question 3 on this 2021 Economics Unit 2 paper. So let's see if we can get to the end before the clock strikes midnight. First question that we were asked is to identify 4 forms of economic integration. I know that there are 5 forms of economic integration, so they only want 4. So let's go with those 4. Let's see. So we're going to go to free trade, the free trade area, customs union, I think should be a common market, an economic union, and the 5th one, just in case you can't remember one of these 4, that 5th one is a political union. Alright? So they come down in order of complexity. So the simplest is the free trade area, and the most complex is the political union. Okay, anyway, part B1 asks us to explain each of the following concepts, and you're getting 3 marks for each concept that you explain. So you expect to have 3 defined points in your answer for each. Okay, so let's see which is the first concept. The first concept was to explain Human Development Index. The Human Development Index is a ranking tool used by UNDP and the World Bank. Right, that's one mark. To indicate a country's social and economic development. In other words, to measure the quality of life of that country as compared with other countries. That should be another mark, right? The HDI is based on 3 major components. So one component is if you expect the people in this country to have a long and healthy life. You don't just want to live long, but they must live long and healthy. Because obviously that would suggest that they're both productive and enjoying the pleasures of life. Another index that they use inside this HDI is the level of education. What is the quantity and the quality of schooling that the people of this country get? So basically you're looking from nursery to tertiary, right? If persons are enjoying all those different levels of education and that the delivery of it is of high quality. And the third one is the gross national income, which is an indicator of the standard of living in the country. So you're looking at the probably the GDP per capita to see how much money is earned or spent on each individual or on each individual. All right. Okay, so we got the Human Development Index. So let's see what the second one was. So the second one is Preferential Trade Agreement. And the Preferential Trade Agreement is an extension of free trade. Where in this case now, one of the members in this agreement may unilaterally offer a further relaxation of all the restrictions that have been set up without asking the other party or parties in that agreement to do the same. In other words, it's not a reciprocal arrangement, but rather it is one party of its own volition deciding to take down some more of the barriers. All right, and you know what will happen there. So this would then lead to opportunities for the smaller player, right, the one for whom the barriers have been taken down, to increase their exports, to increase their employment, through job creation, to give them access to better quality inputs at lower rates, because no man there are no barriers in place, so lower rates, and therefore experience possible economic growth. All right, so those were the two. Let's go to, there's a third one, exchange rate depreciation. Okay, so exchange rate depreciation describes a decrease in the value of a country's currency when you compare it with other countries' currencies, right? And this exchange rate depreciation, it could be deliberate, it could be something that a country does on purpose to make its goods cheaper in the foreign markets. Right? So you could devalue on purpose. Or that exchange rate depreciation could be what we say induced, right? Forced on you. Because your country is going through political instability and turmoil, the labor unions and the labor force, up in arms, right? So investors will be risk-weary. They're not willing to take a chance with their money in a situation like that, right? The environment is not right for investment. So therefore, there'll be less demand on your currency, and it would make sense that the interest rate is going to fall. All right. So very often this may result, as I said, in domestic inflation, right? Because prices of both the local goods and those foreign goods that you were importing will rise sharply in the short to medium term. Because obviously, if you are making your goods cheaper in the foreign market by lowering the exchange rate, then it becomes harder for you to buy more goods because you're not earning as much money. Simply because you may be selling your current production at a cheaper price but earning less money to buy those inputs. All right? And of course, the cost of goods within the local market will increase because the inputs cost more money to make those goods. All right. Let's go to part C of this question. So part C says, discuss 3 factors responsible for globalization. So we're looking for the things that led to globalization rather than the benefits of globalization. So don't misread the question. They're looking for the factors that are responsible, that cause globalization to occur. All right, so well, it's 12 marks, and I feel you could take away some of the pressure on yourself by at least giving the definition of globalization. Even if you can't come up with the rest of things, you should get 2 marks for that. So I'm saying globalization is an expression of the expansion of trade and communication that makes the world seem to be an interconnected place, right? All the economies and the populations are sort of like dependent on each other. So the first factor that I would raise is the reduction or the removal of trade barriers. I think sometimes people say trade liberalization, right? So this is where you remove all your protectionist measures and so on. And you would have opened the doors to freer trade in goods and services and movement of capital and labor, right? And what this would have done then is they entice businesses to expand into other countries, right? Because now you have free movement, right? You've removed all those restrictions so people can move on. Right? So they expand into other countries. And this would have exposed many of the smaller nations to new or newer markets, bigger markets, access to less costly inputs. Of course, it will increase the competition as the cost of so when the competition increases, it means that it will force down the price that the consumer have to buy the goods at, right? Because obviously you can go for the cheapest, when I say the cheapest, the most economic player that can provide those goods without penalizing themselves. Right, anyway, so with that little diversion, doesn't answer for all that explanation. Another factor that is responsible for globalization, let's see, is multinational expansion. Right, this is where the big business brands, the KFCs, the McDonald's, them sort of people, in pursuit of economic wealth, they found creative ways to invest heavily in these developing nations, where they were able to seize opportunity to take advantage of the lower labor costs and favorable tax systems by setting up branches in these economies. So you see what happened? They expanded, they moved their technology, as it were, their structures, their systems into these smaller countries. And so it became a smaller world, right? See, there was a transfer of training, advancement, and access to newer technologies across the world. Smaller nations were able to develop banking, finance, and insurance sectors to service the needs of these economic giants. So it squeezing the world into a smaller place. Because before then you thought that only the big countries could do these things, but now these smaller people were able to contribute to that process. And the last one I will raise is the technological advances and access. So therefore here now you would have narrowed the distance between countries because you got increased speed and ease of communication and travel, things like internet and all that, and faster planes and speedier boats and etc. Right? So it made it easier for people, information, and goods to move across borders. So countries almost became borderless in terms of certain factors, right? That obviously encouraged business. And in particular, the internet has significantly reduced the time and effort of sourcing inputs and the cost of inputs. I mean, for example, I'm using the internet now and I'm communicating with people all over the Caribbean or wherever, right? Say if you're squeezing the Caribbean into my backyard, all right? It has also opened new avenues for some countries to export their goods and to find work for people, for their own people in other jurisdictions across the world. Some of them don't even have to leave the country that they live in to work in these other jurisdictions because of this globalization through the internet, which narrowed the world into a little space on your computer screen, like what we're experiencing right now with me talking to you. All right, so those are 3 factors responsible for globalization. Well, I mean, we could also talk about cultural differences, a change in cultural behavior where people want to see more of the world and enjoy more of the world and get what other people are doing. And because of these increases in technology and communication and travel and all that, the world became a smaller place. You could have read about that too. All right. However, the only one 3. And seeing I have a blank space on this page, I feel like that's the end. And there you go. It's the end of the question. So again, thank you. And I know someone asked me if I could do 2016, so I'm going to try to do that this week. All right, so thank you very much.